why, but what I do remember is that I bought a box full of the best pop culture films and shows. The first week in space was great, but all went downhill when I went to dump my waste into space. I made a mistake and pressed the wrong button and opened the door to storage room A. My VHS box was launched into space. I went insane due to lack of entertainment and became the Contrarian. Decades later, my ship crashed onto Earth, and I finally got a chance to watch my favorite VHS tapes. When I was done, I was excited to learn that all of my favorite films have had sequels and spin-offs. Little did I know, I was about to go insane again. Contrarians log number 2, Across the Spider-Verse. Alright, welcome to the second stream of this channel. Let's talk about Across the Spider-Verse. Wait, did I say Into the Spider-Verse? I might have. It's Across the Spider-Verse. We're going to be talking about Across the Spider-Verse. So, Across the Spider-Verse, is it a good film? Is it a bad film? Let's find out. Alright, so, the structure that I like to use for my live streams that I felt worked for the first one is, first I'm going to briefly talk about the plot, and then I'll talk about the characters as they are being introduced through the plot. I like to get the plot out of the way first because, yeah, it's just easier to do. And I said this in the previous stream that I prefer a character-heavy film rather than a plot-heavy film. And unfortunately, this is a plot-heavy film, and it gets really complicated, and lots of plot holes start just getting peppered throughout the spot, get peppered throughout the entire movie, and it does a lot of retroactive damage. It retcons a lot of things in the Spider-Man universe, and yeah, so it doesn't treat characters well. So, but yeah, the plot is basically so they closed the collider in the first film, but it caused like rips in the multiverse to happen, and bad guys are popping in and out of different universes. This is shown in Gwen's universe. A bad guy comes through. And so there's a elite team of Spider-Verse people, or Spider people who, stop the, I think they call them anonymous, why do they have to use big, complicated words? Anomalies, there we go. They call them anomalies, whatever, screw that word. Okay, so, some characters are brought into the team, some aren't, and there's like a hint that there's a really big reason why, and then the plot gets extremely meta, and then there are kind of character revelations towards the end of the film, which I'm not going to talk about, but good guys or bad guys aren't what you think they are, and good guys are not what you think they are. And so, yeah, it just gets really complicated once they get into the meta stuff. Once they bring in a lot of canon meta stuff, it starts getting really complicated, and to the detriment of the film, unfortunately. So I'll go into further detail. It's harder to do a brief plot overview with a complicated plot, but yeah, so let's move into the character section, because that's the part I really care about. And the part I feel most people care about. First we are introduced to Gwen Stacy again. She's uh, I think she does a quick overview of the previous film, and then it starts with her kind of how she is since she came back from her time with Peter B. Parker and Miles Morales. So it opens with her in a band, drumming, and you kind of see the band staring at her like the song's over, and she's still going on in her drum solo, and the scene is kind of indicating that she's making an attempt to make friends and it's not working well due to her, you know, trauma uh, from her origin story, basically. But oh, one thing I want to do is I'm gonna set a timer so I can have a break halfway through. I didn't do that last time. Let's see. All right. Let's just say there. Okay. So the issue with this scene is it's very bizarre. I feel like the way she's behaving is more the way a someone who's been victimized would behave towards people, like a huge like lack of trust and lashing out in anger and everything. I don't feel that someone who lost a very close best friend um, would behave in this way. Like, if I were to rewrite this scene, or to, not this scene specifically, I probably wouldn't write this. If I were to write her um, character interactions, it would probably be because from, I think that like when someone loses someone that's extremely close to them, um, I'm just going to turn down my audio levels a little bit here. When someone loses someone that's extremely close to them, I I feel like the right. I mean, I guess I could speak for myself. Like, I've lost someone who's close to me, and like the reaction to that is you kind of feel that people are extremely precious, and um, it would make sense that the circumstance and the guilt that she has would make her not want to make new friends, but I don't think she would just be rude to people. Her band was actually trying to be nice, they're like, "Hey, something's going on. Are you okay?" That's not something that someone usually that doesn't warrant a lashing out response. So, anyway, I would write it as like people that know her, they like very occasionally like bump into her at school or different events and they're like, "Oh, Gwen, I haven't seen you in forever." And she's like very, very sweet and happy and genuine and really happy to see them. And there's like a disconnect because it's like, why do you behave like this when you see people in person, but you never answer our texts and you never answer our phone calls? We invite you out places, you never come out. Like that would make more sense that the people are like just like a shot of her inbox or her like phone messages being like full and maybe her like looking through it and then just ignoring it. Um, and then when she randomly bumps into people, she's like, "Oh, hey, how's it going?" And like asks about their family, just being really sweet because like yeah, like I said, when you lose someone close, you find people precious, but the circumstance would might maybe make her be afraid of connecting. So yeah, I just feel like the scene is off. It's weird. It doesn't match what happened to her. Uh there's something I wanted to say about um right. Right. This, and also the impulse to not want to make friends makes sense. Um right, there's a big mess when it comes to the secret identity stuff, and uh the you know the reason secret identities work in superhero films is it's an effort for the hero to distance their loved ones from the psychopathic villains that they have to fight on a daily basis, and they, yeah, they just try to have a large separation, so the less they know, the better. So it's the secret identity is for their sake. So yeah. So let's move on to the intro of the relationship between her and her Peter. It shows like a meal that they're having as well. I was gonna say as a family, but as friends. The two families are having a meal, and her dad is a police officer as well, a captain, and he starts talking about like, oh, I don't trust this Gwen Stacy or this Spider Woman person, and it shows Peter's still a photographer, just not Spider-Man. So he's like takes pictures of Gwen as Spider-Man, and you know what is weird? It's not. No, I guess yeah. Peter does know that she's Spider-Man or Spider-Woman. I think Peter does know. Yeah, Peter does know that she's Spider-Woman. And so and Aunt May kind of reacts to Ben talking about who this Spider-Woman is and if it's ethical to be out there with a mask hiding your identity. Kind of the same opinion that Miles's dad has. Um, and Aunt May says, "Hey, no politics at the dinner table," which I wish this film took that rule to heart when it came to making this film, because it's kind of ironic that they put that in there, because this film has tons of politics in it, which really takes the audience out um, of the film, because then you're not thinking about the story, you're just thinking about politics. Anyway, um, so there's a shot of Peter being bullied by the bully, forgot his name, Peter being bullied by the bully, and Gwen standing up for him and telling the bully off. And then uh, it shows that Peter is working on some sort of scientist thing. He has a vial with green ooze in it, um, and he's planning on trying to turn himself into the lizard. And so Gwen Stacy, Gwen's, and the next shot, it's kind of a montage. So the next shot is Gwen going to a school and dance, and she's looking for Peter. And then, right, it does look like they're kind of boyfriend girlfriend a little bit, maybe in the beginning stages of that. They've definitely been friends for a long time. Um, so she's looking for Peter, and Peter shows up as the lizard. And it's kind of funny because the lizard had the school blazer, which looked kind of goofy. But anyway, the lizard goes directly for the bully, and Gwen suits up into Spider-Woman and starts to defend the bully from Peter, and she then the lizard uh, turns its focus on Gwen and attacks her, and she defends herself and pushes the lizard back, which hits a beam, and then the beam falls down and kills the lizard and Peter. And this is a massive problem, in my opinion, because this is the beginning of the character assassination of Peter Parker. And this film is the last Jedi of the Star Wars or of the Spider-Man franchise, I feel like. So my issue with this is, okay, let me just go through the whole thing. So it falls, he gets crushed, he turns back into Peter. Gwen is shocked because she doesn't know and is like, "Oh my gosh, Peter," and runs over, and uh his he as he's dying, the last thing he said was, "I just wanted to be special like you." Um and when I first watched this film in the theater, I rewrote this line in my head. I gotta turn down the audio levels just a little bit. I rewrote this line in my head to, "I just wanted to defend myself." Like, I watched the scene and it happened really fast, and like that's what I remembered. That's what I thought he said. That's sometimes what I do. I auto rewrite things when they're awful, and it happened very briefly. But then rewatching it and seeing the line was like, "I just want to be special like you." Like, okay, so this is the problem with that scene. Let's compare uh let's compare the reverse, the original scenario of Peter Parker losing Gwen Stacy. Um Peter's fighting a villain, a psychopath, and the psycho um kill pushes Gwen for, uh, um yeah, just the psychopaths in general, if they want to do something for their own purposes, and if someone tries to stop them, they get very vindictive and they want to hurt people. Uh, uh, so they try to hurt the people that are close to the person that stopped them, which is very like that happens in real life. It's very like psychopaths do that. So uh, Gwen falls and Peter tries to save her and shoots his web out and catches her, but he catches her wrong and the whiplash breaks her neck. And so he actually accidentally killed her. That is a massive, massive, like, he was involved in her death. Like, no, he didn't push her off, but in the attempt of saving her, accidentally killed her. That that totally makes sense that someone would kind of change due to that, and Peter Parker becomes a different person after that incident. And But now let's look at the reversal of that situation, which is um, Peter wants to be special like Gwen, so he messes around with science and turns himself into a monster, and uh, it has that trope of like the the science ooze stuff kind of changes their mental state and turns them into a different person, turns them more animalistic, where he's just instinct and uh but he still remembers that he doesn't like the bully and attacks him, but it just changes his character. It's like kind of mind control, but not really. So, um, the issue with that is, uh, so the issue with that is, the lizard attacks Gwen, and Gwen uses self-defense to create distance and pushes him back. So it's the lizard attacking Gwen. So Gwen's logical reaction should be self-defense. Gwen doesn't know that the lizard is Peter. So if she had that foreknowledge that this is Peter, maybe she, because she was shocked when he evolved back, when the lizard turned into Peter. So um maybe that would be more poignant. Maybe she would have been like, oh man, I should have pulled my punches a little bit. I accidentally killed my friend. It was an accidental kill my friend, but she didn't know it was Peter. And then Peter's motivation to become the lizard is, I just wanted to be special. Like, that's not a good motivation. Like, Peter Parker's still Peter Parker. Like, before being bit, he didn't. I mean, maybe there's a little bit of that, like a wanting to be special, but like, I don't think that is the prime reason uh why he would want superpowers. I think I just wanted to defend myself. I just want to stand up for myself. Like, that's a better reason. People can relate to that. A good person would want to stand up for themselves and not have to have their friends try to stand up for them. So anyway, I just think that the movie, or the reason for um the reason for Gwen's trauma and not wanting to get close to friends, it has nothing to do with her agency or her decisions. It was all just Peter Parker messing around with science, and when he shouldn't have, with, kind of vain intentions. So she's not implicated in a negative way in this at all. So I just think that it's an awful way to it's a bad origin for Gwen, and it's an awful way to depict Peter Parker. Okay. So Gwen's dad shows up on the scene and sees Gwen hugging Peter, and he interprets that as attacking Peter, and so he pulls out his gun and chases her, and she runs away. So he concludes it was her that did it. So he's kind of on a manhunt to find the Spider Woman. So that's his obsession. That's what he thinks about all the time. And yeah, so the scenes between Gwen and her dad don't have the same quality as Miles and his dad. Like, that's really, really good writing. You believe it, like, really a lot. Where with Gwen and her dad, they're not really talking to each other. They're just saying cryptic, weird things to each other. Like, the only things that they actually bring up, like, okay, so Gwen walks into the house, and her dad says, like, hey, how's the band? And Gwen says, great, I quit. And the dad says nothing. Okay, that's where this writing is bad. Like, that was important. Like, that's important. That should be the conversation, because then they immediately go into, look, like, oh, I'm getting close on the Spider Woman case. I can feel it. But like, they they had an opportunity to have a father-daughter relationship conversation, but they ruined it by not going there. They just said, and he just was like, oh, and just like didn't say anything. Like that's, I mean, maybe it's just his personality, but that's a lame personality that like he doesn't feel like he can talk to his daughter about her life. And also it makes him a bad person because he's concerned about her and her social life and her kind of um becoming a hermit and not hanging out with anyone, and her best friend just died. So he should be really concerned about her social life. Um so I don't know why he just gave up on pursuing the conversation. And even if he did it in a clumsy way or a wrong way, like when Miles's father, he talked about things that Miles didn't want to talk about, and it was clear Miles didn't want to talk about it, but he would press the issue. He would just continue talking about it and be like, "You should do this. You should do that." That's a dad. And yeah, of course, a teenage kid doesn't want to hear it, but like that's a dad. That's his parental instincts. That's what should happen. But like, and I think maybe a mother character would maybe understand that, like, oh, now is not the right time, like that scene from the first movie where uh Miles asks, oh, can I stay home tonight instead of going back to my dorm room, and his dad immediately was like, no, you made a commitment to that school, and her mom like correctly says like, hey, like he is scared right now. Like it's not the time to be um consistent. It's the time to adjust and be more sensitive. So, but like yeah, so it's just it was a terrible scene where they had an opportunity to say something about her relationship with her father, but they didn't. Um, and I feel like this film tries to make up for poor character writing with um, art design, because at some point he's like, "Hey, are you too cool to give your dad a hug?" And then she wishes in and gives him a hug, and it was just beautiful. The like watercolor dripping effect and the warm colors kind of spreading, and it's just like it was visually beautiful, but story wise it didn't earn it. There's nothing there. There was no connection, there was no attempt at communicating. It was just, yeah, it was just a really bad um it was really bad at why does my audio always seem to be peaking? I speak louder than I realize I am. Hello, hello, hello. Let's see. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello. I know that's something I need to figure out before. Anyway, let's see. Where are we at? So, bad conversation with his daughter. And then yeah, and it's like I'm aware that that does happen, that like some people don't talk to each other, and like that's not a good thing, but this is a story and there doesn't need to be a scene to show that there's no communication. Like it, you don't need a scene for that. You use scenes for like communication, right? And you can use a word, just like, oh yeah, I'm not talking to him. Like that's all. Yeah, you don't need to show lack of communication. Is you can just have a character ignore a phone call. It can take 5 seconds. Like, come on. Um, so it was a waste of time. But her dad gets called away to a um, incident at a art museum. So he's like, "Oh, this is she's gonna show up. I can catch her," and he takes off. And then Gwen suits up and stupidly jumps out of the window, which that's where you live, Gwen. That's where, your dad is hunting you. Your dad is hunting you, and you suit up and jump out of a window in a city. Like, people, you have neighbors and there's like ring doorbells. Like, what are you doing? Like, classic Spider-Man movies, you always see him suiting up in a dark alleyway. Why is that? Is that a trope? No, it's not a trope. It's very logical. He doesn't want to be seen suiting up. Like, Superman ran into a phone booth. I guess that's dumb because people could have saw him running. That's not a good example. Um, but yeah, the Spider-Man example is better. That he ran into alleyways. So anyway, quick stupid things there's just you know a tiny hole that is one of a million tiny holes that are poked into this film. um let's see. So right, so she jumps into action, and you see the dad having jokey banter uh with his partner. And then he says, everybody keep an eye out for Spider Woman. But the problem is as he's saying that, in the background you can see and hear very loudly web thwipping, and he doesn't like. You don't do that. Don't do that. Don't say keep an eye out for it. Like, it would make sense if like you see someone behind him way in the distance get pulled up. And so Spider-Woman webs up all of the cops, and I think that was a very dumb decision. Spider-Man never really webbed up cops because he wasn't really afraid of them. Like, he can he's too fast. Like, he's not afraid of a cop. Even when cops have Spider-Man at gunpoint, he gets away easily. Like, he's too fast. He's just too fast. You can't aim at Spider-Man. He's way too fast. Anyway, so, and also, like, the cops are doing stuff. Like, the building starts falling over later. Like, the cops need to secure the area, right? Like, they have other jobs. Like, you can't take care of everything. You can't do everything. You're just one spider person, and you're fighting a bad guy who's causing damage. Like, the cops need to do stuff. So anyway, it makes sense that maybe webbing up her dad makes sense because she knows like he's gonna be like trying to get close to me. So that makes, and also for safety reasons, right? It's like, I don't want my dad to get hurt, so I'm gonna web him up. But like, I mean, she could be caring about the police officer's safety, but like that, they're cops. Their job is to put themselves in danger to protect and serve. Like, their job is to potentially die. So like, and she knows that her job is the same thing, so she should respect that. Anyway, um yeah, so yeah, she says some snarky thing to her dad, like, how's the hunt going or something. No, I don't remember exactly the line, but yeah, she says something snarky to her dad. Oh, right, yeah, like, you're under arrest, and he's like, okay, good, and then she runs away. And then you see the Vulture, who has a completely different um, character design or art style than the rest of uh, the rest of the universe. So it's clear that he's not from here. He's like kind of on parchment paper, like brown stained paper, and like line drawings, and kind of like the Renaissance era artists, I guess. Wait, is it Renaissance? I'm not sure, but like Leonardo da Vinci, I think, and all those guys. Um, and it one thing I will say, a positive thing I'll say, is it's kind of cool that this specific character popped into this universe's art museum. So it it just makes sense that like a drawing character just gets sucked into an art museum. It just makes sense where that would happen. Um, and so she's kind of quippy and jokey, and she perfectly guesses her. No, he starts to say his backstory, and Gwen interrupts him and perfectly guesses his backstory, which is weird. Like, it's like, does she have magic powers or something? Like, she perfectly guesses his backstory, and it's and it's kind of played off as a joke, but it's really weird. Like, it's like, I don't, why can't she do that? Like, I know Miles guessed um Peter B. Parker's um part of his story of how he got here. Um Being a what's it called? A alternative universe. But he says like I've been studying that in school. And it's an easy assumption to make because he knows Peter Parker. Like he met the original Peter Parker. So that is not a guess out of nowhere. That's a very educated guess. Um where this is she guessed exactly where he was. You were in a coffee shop and blah 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 and sipping coffee and doing whatever, and then you were sucked into this universe. Like, and he was like, "Yes, that's exactly it." And it's why that's not funny. Like, and it's played off as a joke. It's like it's not funny. It's just she's got magic powers. Anyway, so it's kind of dumb. So now let's go to so they fight for a little bit, and she's very quippy, jokey, jokey. And then the vulture has her by the throat, and that's and is about to deliver the killing blow, which is kind of out of nowhere because it was like an even-handed fight back and forth before that, and then boom, grabs not even-handed. She was winning. She was kicking his butt. Um and so it wasn't a close fight, but randomly he got the upper hand and is grabbing her by the throat, and then the killing blow starts to happen, and then a red glowy web grabs onto his claw hand thing and pulls it away. One second. And then, so this is the intro of Miguel. So Miguel jumps into the fight and does very cool, impressive fight moves, spins around and all that. And it's, yeah, so, and she's just sitting there watching. And I mean, as an audience, it's like, oh, she's impressed by him. And then he, has a chance to stop fighting and he's just standing there and and then she's like, "Who are you supposed to be?" And it's very snarky and like very rude, not just rude. Just like, "Who are you supposed to be?" Blah blah. And I'm trying to think of what specific thing that she said to him. Oh right, he says like, "I am Miguel," and he starts to give his backstory, and then again she interrupts him, and it's just stop, stop doing this. Like this is not a it's not a charming thing. It makes Gwen seem very rude, but yeah, she interrupts him and he doesn't get to complete his origin story thing. And yeah, um and he says like what he does get out is like, oh, we're an elite team of spider people, and she's like, oh my gosh, you're from an alternate universe. I'm not impressed. I already know that. Just so like, if you met someone in real life that spoke like this, you'd be like, all right, and then lean over and be like, hey, can we ditch this person? Do you want to like? I'll meet like let's pretend we have to do something, and then we'll meet up somewhere else. Like this person's annoying. This person's rude. And anyway, I don't like this person. Um, I don't know why they think this is cute or charming or funny. I don't know what they thought when they were writing this stuff, because it's just really odd behavior. Um, and so yeah, the fight continues. They both fight the what's it called? The vulture. They both fight the vulture, and um and then things get pretty dicey, and Miguel calls an annoying AI that he created. Like, what? Or maybe he didn't create it, but why would you use this AI? Who would design an AI to be so annoying? Like, he's like, I need you to call. I was like, what? Oh, what do you need? Huh? Like, I don't remember exactly what she was saying, but it was annoying. It was not cute. It was just really annoying. And he's like, I need backup. It's like, oh, you need backup. Okay. And and then another portal opens, and boom, a Spider Woman with a motorcycle flies through the portal and in slow motion, and Gwen is observing it and is like, whoa. And she does a like a big motorcycle kick move on the vulture, and the vulture goes flying, and there's like a freeze frame of like the kick that's very like comic booky, and it's kind of like her hero shot or whatever. And it's revealed that she's about 8 months pregnant. And I'm like, I what? What? Are you serious? 8 months pregnant? And I already know the defense of this decision. I can already hear it. It's like, oh, she's a Spider Woman. The Spider Baby has powers too. And so it's fine that she's joining a fight while being pregnant, because the baby has powers too. Blah blah blah. Uh my response to that is, Peter Parker in the previous film was killed by Kingpin by a double fisted gorilla pound move. So he was killed with that. Now, just imagine that to a pregnant belly. Even if it is a superpowered Spider Man belly, doesn't matter. Killed Peter. Killed Peter. So, no, the baby is gonna do a little blocking move in the belly and stop it. But no, like, this is ridiculous. And if you've been close to babies, newborn babies, you probably have heard the phrase, don't shake the baby, don't shake the baby. Like, even if you wake up and you're delirious and you're angry, like, don't shake it, don't shake the baby, because it'll scramble their brains. Oh, but yeah, hop on a motorcycle. Motorcycles don't shake. They're not like, they're not shaking. That's not, if there's no bumps in the road, like, what? Oh yeah, do a flying kick into a bad guy's face. That's not shaky. What's it? So anyway, I can't get past this for this character, to the point that I can't remember her name. Like, I know she's Spider Woman. Gwen calls her Spider Woman, but like I can't remember her name. So I'm just gonna call her Spidey Baby Bike. That's her name. That's how I'm gonna refer to her for the rest of this podcast, because that's all you need to know about her, is she's pregnant and she fights and the story think that's fine. That's these writers, like, they're really like, they obviously are people that have never been close to children or pregnant women. It's like a foreign concept to them because this is so ridiculous. Um, and Gwen notices that she's pregnant and says, "Are you?" And it's like, "Whoa, whoa, Gwen, never ask a woman if she's pregnant." Like, because if she is, a good guess, you're lucky. But if she's not, you're the biggest jerk in the world. Like, everybody knows, don't ask a woman if she's pregnant. I guess she technically didn't. She said, "Are you?" But she heavily. No, I'm gonna continue with that. Heavenly implied it. No, heavily implied it. But anyway, um, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm pregnant. Yeah, that it's cool, whatever. I can fight." No, she doesn't say all that. "I can fight while being pregnant, and my husband has no problem with her with his baby just being in the fights to the death. That's fine. That's fine. Has no problem with that." And then he says like, "Oh yeah, we don't know the sex yet." And it's like, dude, what? Why did you say that in an animated film? Like, why did you say that? Like, I can just imagine like a little 5-year-old that came to watch Spider-Man like turn to his mom and be like, "Mama, what's sex?" It's like, why'd you say that? Just say gender. Just say gender. Uh, what? Why did you say that? Why did you say that? That's so stupid. Anyway, um, and then oh yeah, and then right after that is like, "Oh, he's my husband's a dork, but also so hot." I was like, why are you saying stuff like this? In it, like, why are you saying stuff like this? Like, it's like, this isn't a Marvel film. Like, this isn't a Marvel film which is made for, you know, teenagers and adults, and like can get away with a joke like that in live action. No, this is a cartoon Spider-Man film. Like, people are bringing their kids to this. So anyway, and also it's a cartoon Spider-Man film, and it's not like a Family Guy thing. It wasn't like marketed as like, "Oh, this is like adult, this is a cartoon, but don't bring your kids. It's a adult cartoon with adult jokes." So anyway, it's just, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to make it through this podcast. Because I have like maybe about 3 hours top to talk about this. I don't know if I can get through the whole film. We're still in the first couple of scenes here, and it just gets dumber from here. Anyway, stop bringing your baby into a bad old place. So, oh yeah, and then another thing is, yeah, so Gwen jumps onto the scene, makes fun of the Vulture, dismissive, sarcastic, rude, great character features to the Vulture. Then a hero jumps on the scene that saves her life, and she's dismissive, rude, a jerk, sarcastic, and then this pregnant lady flies into the fight, being the most irresponsible person in the world, and she's like, "Oh, you're so cool. Can you adopt me?" And she's like, "What?" It's like, ah, what? Why is she getting all this respect when she did like one fight move and revealed that she's pregnant? She should be like Gwen should like web her up and be like, "Lady, you're pregnant." Like, chill. Anyway, um, yeah. Anyway, let's see. Moving on. So that was introduction of Baby Bike. All right, finally, we're done with this garbage universe. Back to a character who's actually good. That's the intro to Miles Morales and his family, people that I care about. Yay. So Miles and no, yeah, Miles's mom and dad are talking to a school idiot. I guess I'll call her a school idiot. Um, and they're, looking into trying to get him into a good school. So it's that kind of stage. He's young, he's 15, but obviously he's ahead in a couple classes because he's really smart. He's a genius, and um, so they're already preparing for the college stuff. And he's supposed to be at that meeting, and he's late, which like that's a feature um that doesn't want to be shown on your when looking for colleges. You want to be punctual. So it's like, but like it's not because he's a bad person. It's like that's not in his character. He's actually, it is kind of in his character because he was late. Huh? Sorry, one second. I'm having technical issue. Technical issue. Okay, there we go. It solved itself for some reason. Yeah, he was kind of late to go to his new school in the first film, but he did really not want to go to that school. So I don't really know if that's in that his character or not to be kind of late. Punctuality. Yeah, so they're embarrassed and they're like, "Oh, he's usually not like this. He's usually on time." And then it shows Spider-Man, and we get a recap of Spider-Man, and it kind of talks about what happened. This is a second recap of Miles's character actually, which is, but this is more focusing on what has been happening since then. So he's been Spider-Manning for a year. He's still very no, he's much more competent. Like he's good at swinging and he's good at all that stuff, but he's still green. Like he's still very new at Spider-Man stuff, and that's shown really well by his interaction with the main villain of this trilogy. I think not of this movie, unfortunately, but uh, the Spot, who I think the Spot is some of the best work in this movie is uh, the relationship between the Spot and Miles. So you see a character walk into you see the bad guy, the Spot, walk into the store. He's just covered in kind of floating spots, and immediately he says something. And his character design is awesome, and the performance is awesome. But immediately he says something really dumb. He says like, "Where's your vending machine?" And the guy says, "Oh, it's in the back." And he's like, "Unchained, preferably." And the guy was like, "Yeah, what?" Like, I know that it's kind of trying to show that he's new to the idea of robbing things, of being a criminal, but like it's later revealed that this guy is a scientist. And so he's smart. Why would you say that? Like, yes, it was funny, but why would he say that? Is the joke worth making him an idiot? No, it's not worth making him an idiot. Um, uh, yeah, so it's not the right joke. Um, I'm okay with the scene being funny because it's not really dramatic. Character introduction is a good place to put jokes, but that was just the wrong one. Um, So yeah, he and also the joke doesn't make sense. Like he's the Spot, and his first attempt of robbery is to just put a teleportation spot on the thing and just pull the cash out. Like that's his first the conclusion of the scene is he takes the whole entire vending machine, but his first attempt is that he thinks he can just put a spot in, reach in, and pull it out. But maybe he's thinking about his plan. If that doesn't work, plan B will take the whole thing. But like, I don't know, it was just kind of weird. So he starts to attempt to use his teleportation spot skills or powers to um, rob this guy, and it fails. Like he creates a spot, sticks his hand in, and it like comes out on like a shelf somewhere and starts knocking things over. And I really, really like this character. I like the fact that he, like Miles, is new to being a villain, so he's not good at it. He's really bad at being a villain. He's bad at the concept of robbery. Like he's just learning. He's learning how to be a villain, and he's not good at it. So Miles shows up, and he makes a quippy joke about ATMs. Um and he's eating like I don't know what it is, some sort of baked uh meat thing. But anyway, so he's like eating that, and then also, and oh right, no, the owner of the store sees him trying to steal, and he starts whacking him. And one of the funniest things the character says is like, "Oh, stop! Please let me rob you!" Like, it's kind of out of place, but it's funny. It's really funny, and I laughed really hard. Um, but and maybe you'd say that out of like fear and frustration, but I just thought that was hilarious. Um, Spider-Man shows up. He's snacking on something, and he starts to stop the spot. But my issue, I have a minor issue with Miles eating a food product because it's revealed that he hasn't bought it yet. And this is like a personal preference. Like, I'm aware that like people kind of sometimes while they're shopping in a grocery store, it's like, oh, I'm gonna open this pack of cookies and just start eating. I'm gonna scan it. I'm gonna buy it later, but I'm hungry. I'm gonna eat it now. That's like a kind of a pet peeve, kind of a annoyance for me because it's like you haven't bought it yet. It's not yours yet. Like I just don't like the idea of debt. Like just buy it and then eat it. Come on. Um, but it's not immoral. Like I wouldn't say that a person that does that is a bad person. I just think that that's a stupid decision. And is kind of a social faux pas. If anything. I don't even know what that means. I've just heard that before, social faux pas. But anyway, so yeah, they fight, and it's really funny because Miles is new and the bad guy is new too. So they're just really like Miles, and also it's like not only is he new, but he's this is the first time he's fighting the spot, and the teleportation stuff is kind of new to him. So he's like, "Whoa, how do I actually fight this guy?" And he's punching himself in the face because he like punches him in the belly, and his fist comes out of his face. So it's really really cool, interesting stuff. And I wanted this character to be the main bad guy of this film because it's a really cool power set. It's really unique, and the character's backstory is really interesting. Um, and he keeps saying like, I'm your nemesis, I'm your arch villain, I'm or I'm your big bad like arch villain. And Miles jokes like, oh, you're just a villain of the week. And he's like, I'm not, I'm the big bad. And he keeps on trying to convince him of that. And then eventually Miles is able to tie him up. Oh right, I didn't finish what I was saying. So Miles is eating this thing, and he says to the guy, "Hey, how much do I owe you for this thing I'm eating?" So like that's annoying, but at least he says that he's gonna pay for it. And the guy says like, "Oh, if you catch this guy, it's on the house." Which ironically, he never ends up catching this guy. He stops him for a second, but then he escapes and causes more damage. So technically, Miles still owes that guy for that thing because he didn't catch him. But anyway, so he ties him up for a second and is able to make it to the school thing, and the parents are really embarrassed and kind of like covertly, like disapprovingly being like, "Where have you been?" Like just annoyed. Um, And then the stupid school person starts talking about like, all right, like how, right there, this is how he's doing in classes, and he's like not doing very well in Spanish, and his mom's annoyed by that fact, and he's missing classes, and their parents are really embarrassed, and then the school person is like, all right, but all that doesn't matter. All that matters is your story, and uh, the and Miles is like, oh, that's kind of gross. Even saying that, it just makes me feel gross that I need to have a story. And he's right. It's pretty gross. It gets even grosser when this stupid and the reason why I'm calling her a stupid school person is her suggestions, because she's like, all right, so Miles Morales comes from an immigrant family, and then the mom immediately corrects her and says, uh no, like I was born in the United States, like I'm not an immigrant, so like what are you talking about? And then he's like, um and then she continues and it's like struggling financially, trying to make ends meet, and the dad's like, oh, we actually own a apartment in New York, so we're doing pretty good, like we're not poor, we're doing really good. And she like is like, uh, oh, it says that's my timer, so I'm supposed to take a break right now. But I just want to finish my thought. Actually, um, this is a pretty important plot point, so I'll continue in a second. So I will be right back. It's gonna be a short, like 5 minutes tops. So all right, be right back, guys. Thanks for watching. All right, I'm back. All right. Hey, so yeah, I just needed to get. Oh, actually, 1 second. Just needed a little bit of break, stretch my legs, and get some coffee and all that stuff. So, let's see. Hello, 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 hello. I am frightened by audio levels. Hello, hello. All right. So we were talking about the stupid school lady. Um, yeah, she was. So she's really pushing this like you are immigrants and you are poor on the Morales family, which is just, it's so gross. Like it's so like, and I know that this is supposed to be played off as a joke, but it's a joke that damages so much because at first, like, I mean, at first it just immediately makes this character into an unethical jerk, idiot character, who's like trying to help, but in unethical means. Like she's learning that what she's saying is not the case, and she's like, no, 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 lie about it, lie to win goodwill for, or to win sympathy of these colleges, and then you can uh get a scholarship and get in for cheaper. Like it's so unethical, really unethical. And it's like, and I, like you said, money's not a problem. Like owning property in New York, like that's, they're doing okay. I mean, they're probably not rich, but they're like upper middle class. They're doing pretty good. Um, it's not a Peter Parker situation at all. Um, uh, yeah, so then they bring up the school he wants to go to, and the mom has a little bit of a empty nester reaction of like, oh geez, don't, no, you can find a good school in this state. And then Miles says his reasoning for wanting to go to this school out of state. And it's not even that far. I don't remember where it was, but it's not very far from New York. And um yeah, Miles is like, it's not that far. He's like, this place is really important. Like, I can study, like, interdimensional travel. And the dad has a funny reaction of like, why don't you get a real job type of thing. He's like, oh, that sounds like a real thing. Um, which, yeah, that fits his character that he like, get a job that's stable and all that stuff. But it's cool that Miles is trying to see his friends. He misses his friends, and that's where his mind's at. When he's not Spider-Manning, he's wanting to study stuff that will reunite him with his friends. So that's cool. Cool for his character. But then, unfortunately, um, the entire Morales family uh, is their character is assassinated because um, the mom says, whatever we have to do to get him into a good school, we'll do. And she's referring to the, uh, you know, so saying, like, whatever your advice is to get him in a good school. And so this lady's advice is to lie about immigration status and financial situation. So in um, Miles Miles' reaction to that, or Miles doesn't have a reaction to that, doesn't correct her mom or the school lady, and also with the dad, same thing, no reaction. And it's very weird because the lady's being stern and like being like this is what has to be done, da da da, and the people and their defense of that is like okay, whatever you say, you're the one that's loud. Um, but no, that ruins their character. It ruins all of their characters because that means that they're all okay with lying about financial status and immigration status to win sympathy to get into a school cheaper. And um, the the Morales family of the previous movie, before their characters were assassinated, um, their reaction, if good writing would say that their reaction should have been like, "What the heck? Are you kidding me? We're going to talk to your superior. Like, what is this? You're telling us to lie on our resumes? Like, you're unethical. You're a terrible person. You shouldn't have this job. Have you been suggesting to all kids to lie? Like, what kind of like?" It's just a yeah, anyway, so that's what they should have said, but it's all played off as a joke, meanwhile assassinating their character. Really disappointed in this scene, and I didn't catch this the first way around, but uh I thought Miles made it through this entire film without looking bad, but unfortunately him and his entire family is looking pretty bad at this point. Um So this meeting gets interrupted by the Spot apparently escapes him being webbed up. He gets out of the webs and flees. And so Miles, makes an excuse and is like, I gotta get out of here. Great meeting, bye, and leaves so he can stop him. And then, um, uh, yeah, his dad does the same thing. I mean, doesn't he's a cop, so he doesn't need to make excuses. He's like, I gotta fix this. I gotta get out of here. So Miles is fighting the Spot, trying to stop him, and his dad is kind of following the chase and is, kind of close to him the entire time, which doesn't really make sense because Spider-Man can swing, and the Spot teleports, so it makes sense that they would kind of gain distance away from him, and he's trying to capture him or he's chasing on foot. But I guess they're just going in circles in the same general area. But anyway, they make their way. Oh, right, but yeah, the dad, does that dad get sucked through the portal too? I don't remember if that happens, but they make their way back to the um, collider that is, the junkyard of the collider, basically. The piece, it's just in tatters. And the spot really reveals the backstory and the most interesting thing about this story, which is the spot is his origin story is he's a scientist that was a part of the Kingpin team, and um, something that he was doing was he brought a spider from an alternate universe, and the spider ended up biting Miles. I don't know why he brought the spider in. Maybe that scientist wanted to become Spider-Man. That's not revealed. They just say like, I brought the spider. I was doing research and I brought the spider here that bit you. And the collider exploded and I was there, and I was hit by it, and that turned me into a spot. So I created you and you created me, like I am your arch nemesis. And like as he's saying this, he's like getting closer to Miles, and then he kind of trips and falls into himself. And and it's funny, he kicks his own butt, like because his foot goes through a portal, and then he kicks his own butt and he falls into a portal. So he's like fallen into himself, and so it's like, oh well, that worked. That kind of fixed itself. Um, so um, Miles and his dad or Miles talks to his dad as Spider-Man and kind of investigates how he's feeling about how his dad's really feeling about him. And it's a good scene. It's not as tight as the writing is not as tight as the the father-son relationship writing in the first film. But yeah, there's a bit of like the empty nester thing where he's like he's more okay with him, or more comfortable with him being out of the house, but he's concerned about, like, he says things like, oh, he things some things he says is so smart, and then he's like, oh well, that's great, that sounds like my dad's happy about me. And he's like, but the things he does is so dumb and I don't know why. And so he's really worried about him, and Miles is kind of annoyed, and he's 15 and kind of feels like he's an adult now, but which I think a lot of teenagers feel like they're an adult when really they are clearly still children. It's a very relatable place to be. Anyway, yeah, so Miles kind of says like, well, why don't you like lay off a little bit? And his dad's like wait, what? That's weird. Why would Spider-Man say that to me? That's kind of weird. And he's like, oh shoot, I almost got caught. Um, and oh right, I was forgot what scene was after this one, but now I remember. So that conversation kind of wraps up, and oh yeah, Miles awkwardly suggests giving his dad a hug, but like, well, as Spider-Man, but it's like, I don't know, maybe he just felt like, I want to hug my dad, but it's like, dude, why why are this guy who barely knows you hug Spider-Man? I mean, I know he hugged him on in at the end of the previous film, but the dad's reaction was like, what the heck? So I don't know why he thought that would become a normal thing, but it was funny. Didn't really make much sense. Um, so the next scene is, oh yeah, the spot kicked himself into himself, and so he's floating around inside himself, and there's all of his portals, which he calls his holes, which is really weird, um, are floating around him, and he's like, hypothesis, I'm gonna stick my head in there. And the this villain's funny, but like you can clearly tell this guy's gonna be a dangerous foe eventually when he figures things out. He has the power of teleportation. He's gonna be really dangerous. Um, so he sticks his head through and like sees another like 50s Spider-Man dimension pop art kind of, and some lady just smacks him in the head, and then he's like, well, that's cool. And then he sticks his head into the Lego dimension, which is really awesome. Like yeah, that's a great idea. And I wish that they could have involved, not in this film, in a better film. It's better that they barely touched the Lego universe. In a better film, I would have hoped that they would spend more time there. And it's great that the Lego Spider-Man is the size of a Lego too. So, um, uh, if if this were a better film, I would want more of that. But I'm happy that it was just a little bit. Um, And then he sticks his head into, I think, the Everything Everywhere All at Once universe. I'm not sure because I haven't seen the film, but I think that's what that was because it's live action and it's universal or alternate universe travel. So I think that's what that was. Um, and the lady's unfazed, and that's funny because I guess they've dealt with that a lot. So it's like, oh wow, you're not phased at all. Um, but yeah, and then we see the the dad is being promoted to captain, so there's kind of like a celebration party for that, and everyone and Miles isn't there yet, and someone puts the microphone in his mom's hands, and she's like, "Oh, I guess I gotta do a speech." So she starts giving a speech, which is, awkward, awkward speech, kind of embarrassing, uh, family speech, which is pretty relatable. Um, and then it cuts to Miles practicing his speech, and then it's revealed that no, he's saying like this is what I want written on a cake, which is ridiculous and kind of stupid, and it's a joke, but it just makes Miles really dumb in this situation. It's like, dude, like a cake is supposed to say like three words, like "Congratulations, Dad, we are proud of you," or something like, or just like really small things. So he gets a second cake to continue his writing on. So he has two cakes, and he and then I think it cuts back to the Lego universe for a second, and Lego Peter Parker tells Miguel about the anomaly that poked through, which is not good news for Spider-Man Peter Parker. Kind of assassinates, or no, Lego Peter Parker kind of assassinates his character, and I'll go into why um, a little bit later. But so yeah, so um, it goes back to the party, and uh, Miles's dad is giving a speech, and he thinks he's there, and he's like, "Cheers to Miles," and he's like, "Oh, Miles isn't here," so it's just awkward and disappointing, and Miles finally makes it, having to fight little like villain of the week characters on the way, and he swings his way to um the party, and oh, I should set this. He swings his way to the party, and uh the parents immediately start chewing him out, and it's like, "What are you doing here?" And it's like a kind of a massive party, so it's really uncomfortable. And then Peter, not Peter, Miles says, "Oh yeah, yeah, hey, I was late because I was bringing your cake." And he opens up the cake, and the words are all scrambled up, and it says, "I'm not proud of you." And it's like, I get the joke, and he's like, "That's not what I mean." I get the joke, but like, I don't know. I was like, oh, okay. What are the odds that that would spell anything after swinging around and smearing the cake up against? It should just be just the color of the frosting mixed together. But yeah, so that was a little far fetched, but not too bad. Um, so yeah, a big argument that lasts forever. The party scene lasts too long because it's uncomfortable and it's dragged out. So it lasts way too long. The result is Miles gets grounded. So that means he gets grounded from the party. So he immediately has to go home and sit in his room. And that's where Gwen Stacy comes back. And uh, oh, I actually didn't finish writing this. I have notes of like what characters are being introduced when, but I've didn't finish writing it. Oh well, I'll remember. Um, so Gwen is back, and they're they are getting to know each other again, and it's made clear that Miles really likes her because he's been drawing her a lot in his sketchbook, and she sees the sketchbook, and then Gwen says like, "Oh, is Spider-Man grounded?" And he's like, and then they go off, and again they jump out of his window as Spider-Man, which they really should stop doing that. They should covertly sneak out and then run down an alley and put on their suits. That's just how it has to happen. You can't turn into Spider-Man broad daylight or reveal yourself as being in that building. Um. Anyway, uh, so they kind of swing together, and they are getting to know, catching up, and getting to know what has been happening. Um, and she tells him about the spider group, and he is kind of jealous that he's hasn't been invited. He's like, "Hey, I helped a lot with the collider. Why am I not eligible?" And she's like, "Oh, it's a really small group." Um, and then she starts bringing up names of other characters, specifically Hobie, and says like, "Oh, I've been crashing in his universe," which is kind of weird, and like it kind of is like a vibe of Miles is worried that she's sleeping with him because he says overnight. Like it's a kind of a weird, like they're both teenagers. I know she's probably like 17 or something, or 16 or 17, 1 year older. Yeah, she's like 16, but still, that's, I don't know. It's a weird thing for this character to be worried about. Um, oh, I gotta check my internet connection. Oh, we're back. Okay, there was just a dip in connection there. So I don't know how long it was doing that. Yeah, so Gwen Miles is worried about her liking somebody else, and throughout this, like she kind of gets lost for a second, so she can set up um, a camera to kind of track the spot, and then so that kind of reveals that she's definitely uh, came to see Miles, but also had other motives as well. She's kind of on a mission as well. So she catches up with Miles again, and they start talking about, um, potentially boyfriend and girlfriend liking each other, romance stuff. And Gwen mentions, like, Spider-Man has fallen for Gwen Stacy in other universes, and it hasn't worked out. It's talking about like it leads to Gwen's death, and um but the conversation concludes with there's a first time for everything. So like it's like maybe uh but like when I first heard that, it's like, oh well, I mean, yeah, like with Spider-Man and Gwen, but you're Spider-Gwen, and this is Miles Morales, who is also a spider person, so that doesn't matter. Like maybe a concern that they could bring up would be like we're from two different universes and we glitch when we're in each other's universes, so that's potentially dangerous. Then again, Miles is was bit by a spider in another universe and it turned him into Spider-Man, so maybe there's a way that they can make it work or something like so but like it's so yeah. So anyway, that scene kind of concludes, and that with like maybe there's a chance that maybe they can make it work. Um, but yeah, and then they go to the party, and they start eating food from the party. Obviously, they're hungry from swinging around. Um, and the mom and dad spot them, and the mom is immediately protective, which is understanding, and is like she looks like she can vote, like she looks way too old for him. um and so she goes to meet her, and the first thing that happens is Gwen says oh, and calls her by her first name. I don't remember her first name. um but yeah, calls her from her first name, and she's not happy about it. They're probably more traditional and go by like last names for adults. So she's like, "Oh, you called me by my first name. Interesting." And then she didn't pick up on that. She was clueless because the dad also comes up a little bit later, and she calls him by his first name, and the dad's like also reacts. It's like, "Oh, that's not cool, huh?" And so she's starting on a bad foot, but um uh it's kind of awkward, and they're very kind of interrogating her, and then she is like, "Oh yeah, I'm from another school," and all that stuff, and then she leaves to go on some more mission stuff, which leads to Miles and his mom having a conversation, which is like a kind of a empty nest mother conversation with their son, expressing concern about like yeah, I've been taking care of you my entire life, and now you're going out into that world, and I just hope that you find a place that is accepted, and that you're accepted, and that you're treated well. Find people that treat you well. So very, very relatable. It was a good scene, good stuff. I would say it went on for a little bit too long. Probably could have been cut down by 5 minutes. 5 minutes? No, 30 seconds maybe. Because it just went on a little bit long. Um, but yeah, she ungrounds him. It's like, I unground you. You can go hang out with your new friend. She seems nice. And so he's like, oh, thanks, mom. And he, um, it was a good scene, but it was a little weird. Like she kept on bringing up, like, oh, you're gonna come back and you're gonna bring normal cakes, which is, I don't know. It was kind of weird that she brought up the cakes thing. Like, to me, it was like, you're gonna come back and you're gonna give me cake. Like, I know that she was talking about like don't shake up cake when you. Anyway, but it was weird. It's like, oh, I'll bring cake for you, mom. It was a weird thing. Not that important though. Uh, so then they move on to she okay. So Miles follows Gwen. Gwen finds where the spot was. There's a building with big spot-shaped holes in it, and she goes and investigates. And she has technology that kind of rewinds existence in that area, which is kind of weird. Similar thing as kind of Guardians of the Galaxy. Peter Quill had that kind of technology, but anyway, it's kind of odd. But um, she sees what's happening. She sees that the Spot is trying to generate power to intensify his Spot powers, and it blows him into, another dimension. And then the a hologram of Baby Bike comes back, and Baby Bike is kind of like on her about like, oh, you went and hung out with Miles. Why'd you do that? You should have been focusing on the mission. Meanwhile, the entire time, Miles is there, invisible, listening to the conversation. And yeah, so Baby Bike is kind of on her about it, and it's clear that there's kind of like a mentor-mentee situation, even though doesn't really need to be mentored. She's been Spider-Man for a while, and yeah, she's kind of past mentor phase, I think. But um, yeah, she's kind of on her about that, and I did have a question of like, does this hologram only pick up her, or like the Star Wars holograms do, or does it pick up the surroundings as well? Couldn't they have just sent like that spider device hologram into this universe and not have to send a person? But I don't know. I don't think that might not be the case. Maybe it's just picking up on people. So where are we at? Yeah. So the annoying AI comes back and identifies where the Spot went. So Gwen goes and uh, tracks tracks him down, and the portal's still open, and Miles is like watching her, and like she looks back and is like, oh man, and it's kind of saying goodbye to Miles without realizing that she's saying goodbye to Miles. And then Miles uh, hesitates for a second and then jumps into the portal as well, and that takes them to India, in another universe. And uh, yeah, so they're kind of swinging around in India, and Miles is kind of getting the culture shock thing where, and then you see the Spot as well, kind of going around, looking for the collider of this universe, and um, yeah, Gwen starts to fight the Spot, and Miles distracts her, and the Spot like gets away. So it's a problem that Miles is here. He's making a mess of things because he's uninformed. Um, and then we get introduced to uh, Pav. Pav is kind of his nickname. I don't remember his full name, but who's another iteration of Spider-Man who is Indian. And he's kind of a very jokey character. I I think this film struggles by having too many characters in it, and therefore there's not enough time to fully develop them. So his character development is really rushed. He has the basic Spider-Man origin story that kind of matches the Gwen Stacy story arc. There's a girl that he likes that Gwen Stacy, original Gwen Stacy story arc, so not Spider Gwen. Um, there's a girl that he likes, and her dad is disapproving and is also um, a captain, and so he's aware of the Spider-Man stuff. So it's a little bit complicated there for that character. But he's very jokey, very quippy, jokey the entire time. Everything this character's saying is a joke and a quip, and he's very offended when people get things wrong about India, like the chai tea is tea thing, and then later the spot says something about uh like going on a like hero's journey, and then he's like, oh, and you come to India to do that, don't eat pray love me, man. It's like, eat pray love you specifically? Anyway, and that's not what he was referring to. He was talking about a journey of inner discovery, not uh anyway. But anyway, there's a lot of jokes about that. Um, and oh right, he's very intuitive about romance because he picks up on Miles and Gwen's romance, and yeah, they're kind of denying it, but he's very aware of it. So they go to the collider. The Spot goes to the collider and walls them off, like creates this electric wall to prevent the spider people from breaking through. So they're banging on it and they're trying to get through. And Miles is trying to use his electric powers and he's trying to impress the spider people. He's like, "Watch this! I can do this!" And he starts, and they keep on asking him like, "What are you doing? What is that called?" Like, and he's like, "Hey, just let me concentrate." And then there's like a portal opens, and then Hobie uh, flies in, and this character is just. I think in the comics, his name is he's like Spider Punk or something, but this character is just a headache. Like, he comes in and he is loved by Gwen and Pav, and he's incoherently British, like just the thickest uh British accent uh with like with British terms that don't make sense, and I have to like watch it over and over again and read the subtitles to kind of understand what was happening during this guy's entire introduction. And he speaks extremely fast too, and it's like I think I think they wrote it thinking it was hilarious, but it's not. It's a headache. It's just what is this character? And it's like, oh, this is the guy that um Gwen has crashes out his universe. So it's like, okay, so Miles immediately starts feeling jealous and annoyed by this guy. And he goes through his intro, and it's it's like very jokey, very fast, very political. And I was begging for what's her name? Aunt May to just pop her head through a porter and be like, please don't talk about politics at the dinner table. and and he says something really weird in the beginning of his intro. He's like, I'm I'm hobby so and so, whatever. I don't remember his full name. And I was bitten by a, wouldn't you like to know? You know what I mean? And I was like, what? What? And I like paused it and rewound it. And I was like, what? What is that? It's a joke, but what is it? It's not funny. What is it? Like, I was racking my brain. I was like, I was bitten by, wouldn't you like to know? Is that like a kinky sex joke or something? Like, what is that? So anyway, he says stuff like that all the time, and it's really weird. And he just flies through his intro, and he's like, "Oh, I'm not a hero because if you call yourself a hero, you're a blah blah blah." Like all these like very political words that like your average person is terms that go way over your head. It's like, what are you talking about? And and so basically he's just anarchist, and he doesn't believe in systems, he doesn't believe in rules, he doesn't believe, and that's what he says. He says, I don't believe in, and he just says a ton of things. He's like, I don't believe in teams, I don't believe in consistency, I don't believe in blah blah blah. And it's like, um he's like, I don't believe in teams. He's like, you're a part of a band. He's like, I don't believe in consistency, which is like a joke. So like, I don't know if they're teasing people like this, or if they're actually like this is like a cool hero guy. He's like, I don't believe in calling yourself a hero. And so yeah, he's just a headache. And then like he's like, oh, you left your toothbrush, uh you left your sweater and your toothbrush in my dimension. And Peter starts kind of freaking out a little bit. Like, and all of this, like, quippy, jokey character introduction is happening during very important plot points of the Spot trying to get powers. So it's like, it used to be like in the previous film, a movie would slow down. They would be at a diner. They would talk about stuff. They'd be driving in a car and they'd be talking about stuff, and they would be getting to know each other, and there would be jokes, and they would be, talking in a room discussing the game plan. And but here it's like things are happening while introductions are happening of character. Like everything everywhere is happening all at once. It's so frustrating and hard to keep track of. Anyway, um, right. Oh, I didn't even say what he like. I can't even say what this character does. I forgot to say what this character did because I'm distracted by all the things he was saying. He bursts through the portal and he blows up the wall with. So he has the same electric powers Miles has, um, which some spiders have that, and we'll give that to you. Cool, lucky those two. Sorry, Gwen and Peter, you don't get it. But anyway, not a huge fan of that power and the invisibility thing. Oh, I don't think he can turn invisible. I don't think uh Hobby. No, it's Hobie. Hobie. I don't think Hobie can turn invisible. Anyway, so the Spot dives the uh into the collider, and they try to stop him, but they can't. It explodes. The building explodes. Everything comes crashing down. Miles takes the leadership position and calls out orders to stop the building from crashing into people. And Hobie says something incredibly stupid. He says, I'll do it, but not because you told me to. Like, whatever, dude, whatever, man. Like, you're so obsessed with your identity of like, oh, I'm this cool anarchist, and it's like, ah. Anyway, uh, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, the building comes crashing down, and Pav's girlfriend is in a bus that's falling off of a bridge, and um, and the captain, her dad character, is chasing after a child, and I think a building is coming to crash down on him, and so Pav immediately jumps to save his girlfriend. And I didn't notice the first time I watched this, but he says, I can. He looks at the captain and he says, I can do both, and starts like tying up the web so he can try to do both. And then Miles is like, "Oh, the captain's gonna die," and jumps to save him. And then uh, Gwen stops him and says, "It's too dangerous. Don't go." And he's like, "No, no, I can do it. I can do it. Watch." And uh, like busts out of her grip and uh, goes down and saves the captain, and the bus gets saved. And meanwhile, like uh, on the spider groups, every Spider-Man that is a part of the spider group has like a watch. So on the watch, like people are saying like, "Oh, another canon event is happening." Da, 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 da. And for me, I was like, canon event? That canon, like story canon? Did they just are they being meta here? What is this? This is kind of weird. And I was like, oh, kind of interesting. What's this canon event? And then the scene plays out, and it's like, oh yeah, that is kind of eerily familiar to like Peter and Gwen's uh or yeah, Peter and Gwen's story arc. So I was like, oh, that's interesting that the captain dies and everything. And it's like, oh, but the captain didn't die. It's like, well, yeah, the captain didn't die because this is a different universe, right? So different things happen. And and then so they're saved. Everybody's like congratulating them and hugging each other. And then you see a black hole, a building being sucked into a spot black hole that's just widening and just looks like it's gonna swallow everything up. And Miles says, "What is that?" And then Hobie says, "It's a metaphor for capitalism," um, which yeah, it's another political thing he brings in. And he's an anarchist, so he should probably be for capitalism because capitalism is uh like someone creates a service or product and then another person agrees to trade uh value for that service or product. That's what capitalism is. Um, but he's complaining, what I think, what people complain about when they complain about capitalism is uh, corruption in capitalism, because like that, the capitalism is literally just creating a product and two individuals or groups of individuals agreeing that that product has value and will trade goods or services or money. Like that's what capitalism is. It's just like building something and buying something. But corrupt capitalism is when someone um, creates something that has no value and lies and convinces somebody that the product he made has value and trades it for something with value. That's corruption because that it's a lie. You're lying. So so an anarchist should be for like, I'm going to do whatever I want and I'm going to interact with people that I want to interact with. So nobody's going to tell me what to do. I'm not a part of your system. I'm not a part of your rules. I'm going to do my own thing and I'll interact with people when I want to and when I agree to. When there's a mutual agreement, that's when I'll do that. It just doesn't make sense. He should have said like it's a metaphor for corruption or whatever because yeah, yeah, it's just, and then they're like, oh, it's much worse than that. And then spider people um, come through a dimension and they set up tripods of something and shoot lasers into it. So they're doing something important. And then the Spidey baby bike shows up without her bike this time, but shows up and is like, all right, let's go back to headquarters. And then Miles is like, I have an invitation to headquarters. Awesome. And another thing that has been happening is Miles is in somebody else's dimension, but he rarely glitches. Like he doesn't glitch during his attempt to save. It's just not consistent how often the glitching happens. Um So it seems like the characters glitch only when it's convenient to the story, which is a huge problem. Um, so yeah, let's go into so they're going to Spider-Man HQ, which has a lot of problems. One is it's way too big. It's way too big. Like it's too much. It's too way too much. There's like thousands of like as far as the eye can see, you can see spider people interacting with each other and walking around, and it's just waves and waves of them. It's so many spider people, it's ridiculous. um and so that reveals that Gwen lied to Miles when she said like, oh, like it's a very elite club, like there's not many spots open, and he just turns to her and is like, there's not many spots open, like there's thousands of them, and it's like, oh, these people are part-time. It's like she's just lying to her friend. That's cool. um Heroes do that. So they walk through, and you get your first instance of, because the character assassination of Peter Parker, of Gwen's Peter, was very subtle and almost forgivable. It was like, they screwed that up, but not that big of a deal. He's like a minor character in this situation. Um, I mean, he's the motivation for Gwen being moody all the time. It's a big problem for Gwen, but for the story and for Peter in general, like you can forget about it. Um, but they walk through and they kind of explain a little bit about HQ, and they walk across a Peter who is a mellow like a I don't even remember how to say that term. He's a very dramatic character, overly dramatic, angsty character, being like, oh, I'm just remembering my story, and oh, it's, oh, what a painful memory. Oh, and he's like posing and like in a very dramatic way, and people and other spider people are just looking at him as he's going through his moment, and it's like, and I was like, when I saw that, I was like, that's bizarre. And also I recognized his Spider-Man outfit, and I don't remember the name of the Spider-Man, but it's a very popular iteration of Spider-Man. Like there's a huge fan base for this. It's like he's wearing his Spider-Man outfit, and then he's wearing like a jacket with the sleeves cut off. And it's like uh blue, and yeah, so I've seen that Spider-Man before on comic book covers and animated content. So and actually on Twitter, I before I even saw the film, someone posted an image of him and said like, "Oh, they did my boy dirty." And it's like, yeah, people are huge fans of this iteration of Spider-Man, and they're just making him this ridiculous character. Um, so they go into the room where Miguel is working on stuff. He's kind of flitting through, like flipping through different images and stuff that is probably suggesting a little bit more of his backstory. And he does a little bit of a monologue explaining his backstory. And but it's kind of cryptic in a way though. Like being like, oh, what I have to do sucks so bad, but I know I have to do it. One second, I'm gonna take a sip of coffee. So, yeah. So one thing that was very bizarre is I failed to mention this earlier in this podcast, but the first scene with Miguel, he there's a moment when they burst through the ceiling of the building and he's fighting the Scarecrow. Is that his name? Scarecrow? No, the Vulture. Fighting the Vulture, and there's a moment where his mask comes off, and he like opens his mouth, and his eyes turn red, and his teeth turn into fangs. And I'm like, oh, is this guy a vampire? What was that? Um, and so in this scene that I'm talking about, flashback to HQ, he's monologuing to himself, and he injects himself with something, and his eyes are red and then turn back to whatever his colors were. His eye color was like brown or hazel or something. So it's like, okay, something's going on with this character. Like he has some sort of like, yeah, there's something more than just Spider-Man is going on with this character. He's like part vampire or something. Um, which could be interesting, but they don't explain it any further. His eyes just turn red occasionally when he gets angry, which is all the time. This character, he's very moody. He's Moody Miguel. Um, so yeah, Miles comes into the room and he's introduced to Miguel, and he immediately starts speaking Spanish to him, and he's like, "Hey man, I've heard a lot about you," and he's like very social, awesome Miles, and he replies as like straight accusations, just hey, yeah, what did you do? Yeah. And Miles is like, what? Why? What's with all this hostility? Like, it's not cool. It's super rude. And then Gwen was like, well, it's partially like my fault. Like it was me. And she's like, yeah, you should have known better, Gwen. Blah, just like flying off the handle all the time. He's just a huge grouch all the time, just always angry. Um, and yeah, and so he's like, you Miles, you interrupted a canon event. And then I'm like, oh, a canon event? What's going on here? And I finally can learn what the heck this canon event thing is. This movie tends to like mystery box things. They say something mysterious and then they pay it off, and it turns out to be something terrible. Um, it's like, yeah, canon event, and uh, basically he says like this is the Spider Verse, and there's like a web, and where the nodes come together, uh, you see like different canon events that has happened and will happen and always will happen, and I'm like, okay, this doesn't. He's like, something's good, something's bad, something's really, really bad. And I'm like, okay, that's weird. And uh oh wow, I'm almost out of time for this podcast. But yeah, let me try to fly through this because there's a lot of quippy, swinging jokes. Not a lot of content actually happens during. Not a lot of story actually happens. So basically, what is happening here with the canon event is certain things happen in Spider Man's universe that make him Spider Man. Therefore, they have to happen. And if you try to stop those things, then um that version of that universe will collapse, and everybody in that universe will die. So it's a world-ending situation. So, for instance, the captain has to die in every single universe. The captain must die. Um, oh, actually, hold up. Let me back up a little bit because I missed the introduction or reintroduction of Peter B. Parker. So Peter B. Parker shows up, and um the first thing he says is so awful. Like he's like, "Hey, come on, Miguel, give him a break. He had a terrible mentor. And it's like, he's like, he never had a chance. He had a terrible mentor. And it's like, no, the first movie was about Miles, was a big point of the movie is that you're a good mentor. Like, well, he's the character assassinating himself. The first thing he says, he's just stabbing himself in the back. Like, I'm a terrible mentor. I don't know if he's joking or being sarcastic, but I think like it's anyway, it's just dumb. And so they reunite and they're all excited, and he's like, "Oh, you have a baby!" And um, Peter brings has a daughter and brings the daughter to his work, which is like, I mean, that's kind of rude, like to his coworkers, because toddlers are they're loud and they get into everything, and that's the case. And the baby has Spider-Man powers, and you see the baby crawling on the walls, and then turns out the baby has web shooters. Like, he created web shooters for his baby, and the baby's kind of swinging around, and he's kind of like proud of her and crawling after her and stuff. And it's like, yeah, like that's. And then the baby's like crawling over all over Miguel, and Miguel is like really annoyed. And it's like, yeah, no one would want a toddler in a workspace. Like, it's super rude to bring a toddler into your workspace. Um, Maybe for like a day, like bring your daughter to work day, but it's seems like it's like an everyday thing for this guy. Um, I mean, what's MJ doing? Like, why why does Peter have to bring the baby to his work? Anyway, yeah. So there's that. He's introduced and is immediately assassinated, and so they go to he goes back to the canon thing. I kind of skip ahead of that because it's the biggest problem of this movie and to the entire Spider-Man franchise now. So he's like, "Oh, these things have to happen. Like, in every universe, the captain must die, or like it all collapses, and then and everybody dies in that universe." And then he says, except for if you're very, very lucky, it like we can stop it. But and I'm like, are you kidding me? You mean it hasn't always happened that way? There's exceptions to the rule? Like, this is a building full of thousands of Spider-Men, spider people who are all like geniuses, scientist level geniuses, and none of them can figure this stuff out. None of them can figure out what is causing the quote unquote luck, and all of them are just okay with like, okay, we know this character is gonna die. All these characters, all these iterations of all these characters that have to die. We gotta let it happen, let the death happen, because if they don't die, more people will die. It's like, no, every Spider-Man that is cool with this is assassinated. Gwen, awful person, awful person. Gwen is a terrible, terrible person, villain level evil. She's like, and so Miles is not cool with it. Miles is like, oh, um, my dad's captain. And they're like, yep, he's gonna die in 2 days. And he's like, what? No, he's not. I can't let that happen. And it's like, nope, he has to die. Yeah, that's it. That's whoa, it's fate. It's his fate. He's gonna freaking die, or you're not gonna be Spider-Man. You're not gonna learn your lesson from his death. So he's gotta die. So stupid. And then he turns to Gwen and is like, your dad's the captain. And she's like, yeah, yeah, bummer. She's just cool with her living dad just about to die. She doesn't have a mom. It's just she's she's assassinated. Her dad, she doesn't care at all for her dad. Who cares? Who cares? Um Oh, wait a second. Yeah, I mean, I guess this movie thinks that it's justified because her dad, like, wanted to arrest her anyway, but that's not justified. Like, and like pulled a gun on her, so it's like, oh, he's a bad person, so he should die or whatever. I don't know what this story is thinking, what these writers are thinking, but yeah, Gwen's a terrible person. Even the Lego Spider-Man, who is a part, is like a part of this team, apparently. The fact that he's cool with it, his character is assassinated. Every character that is cool with this, their character is assassinated. And it doesn't matter if it's not true. This is the working assumption of the characters in this universe, is that the canon of events is doom, broken canon events is doom for a universe. That's just their assumption. And that's their working theory. And if that theory turns out to be wrong in the next film, it doesn't matter. Every character that believed this theory is a terrible, terrible person. Miles turns to Peter and says, hey, what if you had a chance to save Uncle Ben? What would you do? And uh, uh, Peter B. Parker assassinates himself again and says, Ben's death made me who I am today. What? 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 Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Uh, no! That doesn't mean that if it were to happen again, I would let him die. Are you joking? Are you kidding? Peter is dead. Peter is a terrible person. His character is over. This movie is awful. And it's ridiculous because I've seen a lot of justifications for this is it's okay that this happens in this film. And a lot of these justifications are like, well, in the comic books, there's alternate universes in the comic books, and the rule for Marvel was Uncle Ben must die in every universe. So this is just staying true to the universe. These are film writers, okay? These are different writers. It was stupid in the comics universe, okay? It was always stupid. The reason why this rule exists is they know that it was important that Ben died, right? They knew it was important. That story piece was really important. So they're like, we need that to keep happening because we like the result of that story arc. That's the Peter that we want. But the thing is, I said this in the previous video, no, you don't get it. The reason they don't he doesn't become he doesn't have to learn that lesson to become Spider-Man. This is the reality of the situation. And I've said this a couple times already, and I keep saying this because this is an important point. Psychopaths, when they are stopped from achieving their objective for egotistical, whatever power reasons they want to do something, whoever stops them, they hate, and they want to hurt them and watch them suffer. That is true in human reality. Every person who decides to be a hero, and a hero is defined by the person that does the right thing no matter what the outcome could be. No matter what, I will stop that psychopath. That is what a hero is. That is what a hero is. Okay? So Ben died because because well, in the Tobey Maguire universe, because Peter, for selfish reasons, decided, no, I'm not going to be a hero. I'm not going to stop that criminal, and that criminal ended up killing his uncle. So that's really important. Okay? That's really important. And so he's like, "Oh, I need to be a hero because people will die." But like the lesson that was learned in the full truth is the lesson that he learns in uh No Way Home is when you do the right thing, like Aunt May dies, right? So Aunt May does the right thing and this encourages him, let's do the right thing, let's save these people and cure them. One of those psychopaths killed Aunt May because he was trying to be stopped, and he's vindictive and stuff. But the lesson is you do the right thing either freaking way. If you do the right thing, if you ignore your responsibilities to stop someone, people can get hurt. If you try to stop someone, people might hurt people you love just to get back at you for trying to stop them. But you still try to stop them. That is the moral good. That is the moral good of being a hero. Okay? And not that's without that being said, like even beyond that, like what the canon event says about fate and destiny is terrible. These two things, fate and destiny, this canon event thing is just another iteration of this awful, awful film trait, which is fate and destiny. No, fate, like a character is a character because of his decisions he makes along the way. That's what he is, right? And this is displayed perfectly in Terminator 2. I don't remember what character said it, but someone says, "There is no fate but what you make." That is true. That is true, right? It's like you don't know what's going to happen. You don't have a destiny. You have nothing, but you create it every step of the way. You make your fate. You decide your fate. You do things, right? You decide where you're going to go in life. You're going to try this, you're going to fail, you're going to try this, and how are you going to react to that failure? And that is reality. That is humanity. So these stupid stories that come up with this idea of like it is your destiny, it is your fate, it is your blah blah blah. Every good film is like, no, that's BS. A character believes in it, maybe like Darth Vader says like, join me, it's your destiny. And Luke decides, no, I'm not gonna join you. I'm gonna actually jump off of this cliff rather than join you. And then he's like, you know what I'm gonna try to do? I'm gonna try to get you to join me and be a good guy. So it's like that's good storytelling. So this canon event thing like nullifies every decision that Peter Parker, Gwen Stacy, any character has ever made in any Star Wars film. The only character with agency in this film is Miles Morales. What? What? Are you kidding? So Miles is the only character in this story. Are you joking? Is that like no? No. Dude, no. There's no canon event. And there is a hint that there is that like the canon event is just an assumption, but like even the fact that people bought into this idea that every iteration of Spider-Man believed in the canon event idea, that's a huge problem. And anyway, so I'm gonna just fly through like the chase scene because it's really boring and it's just nonsense. Um so Miles is like, no, I'm not doing this. And Kobe also agrees. Kobe is also Kobe Hobie. Hobie also agrees that it's not a good thing and this is BS. But he doesn't do anything about it. He ditches. He's like, I'm out. I quit. Bye, and leaves. Like Hobie's been there. His character's assassinated. He doesn't agree, but he's been there for however long he's been a part of the Spider Group. He has like a watch thing. He's like, I quit. He's been with them and like for I don't know how long, and he's done nothing. He's done nothing. Also, another thing this film does, I'm sorry, I'm going back to Hobie for a little bit. Another thing this film does is um, it just doesn't, it's not a moral film. The people, like, I would be very suspect of the people that wrote this film because like they go into a scene and unless Hobie's kind of being depicted as an anti-hero, like kind of a villainous person, because he's just walking through and stealing stuff. He's ripping components off of the wall. He's like, I'll take that. And Miles is like, what are you doing? Why are you taking stuff? That's not good. And yeah, he's right. Stealing's bad, guys. Don't write your character to be stealing stuff. Are you kidding? And then it turns out that he's building a portal that or a portal hopping device that Gwen Stacy can use later. But like you could have written that he built that um, in a way where it you don't have to depict him literally stealing from the person that owns his building or whatever. Like he's like, I don't believe in I don't believe in property. Whatever, dude, you idiot. Um, so he's like, I don't believe in property, therefore it's mine. Oh, great, good for you. So anyway, what they could have done, let me rewrite that for a second. This is a spider group, a building full of spider people. So, what are Spider-Men? Spider-Men are scientists. They're trying to solve these portal problems or whatever. They should just have like a lab, like a room filled with technology, which is like, all right, guys, like Peters, if you think of an idea, if you have an epiphany, go in there, maybe try to figure something out. And so there should be like this, like science equipment open to the employees of this job or whatever, because I guess it's a job. I don't know how it's funded, but anyway, maybe it's post scarcity because it's so far in the future, but post scarcity. Anyway, so he's like, uh, and then he could just go in there and just be like tinkering with something the entire time. And it's like, what are you doing? Why are you not paying attention? It's like, I got an idea. And then, yeah, and then he can do that, like covertly building something in the background. But anyway, so they made him a bad guy for no reason. Um, yeah, so, what's his name? Miguel traps Miles in like a cage, like a web type thing, and he breaks free. And this is the dumbest. Well, not the dumb. This is next to the canon event. This is the dumbest thing in this film. Um, he breaks through the web thing, and instead of reminder, this character has invisibility powers. Invisibility powers, but instead he runs. Oh, I'm running. And so I'm like, this is so unbelievable. Maybe his, like, because at some point he was given a wristband that prevents him from glitching. Uh, oh, I'm supposed to take a break now, but I'm so close. I'm gonna ignore that. Um, it's supposed to stop him from glitching. I'm like, oh, maybe he can, maybe they can track that. But then it's revealed that no, they're not tracking that thing. Why did he not just turn invisible? Because this whole chase scene is, I'm gonna run far away. All the spider people are gonna follow me. Then I'm gonna turn invisible, and then I'm gonna run back, and they'll be so far away from me, I'll be able to hop into the go back machine. There's a machine that sends spiders home, and then I'll be able to go home and save my dad. I got an idea. I got an idea. How about you just turn invisible immediately? Why did you have like? Because there's the scene where he turns invisible, and then he walks into the go back machine undetected. Like no one knows he's in there. And there's like a spider lady there who, yeah, he didn't even draw the spider people away. There's still the spider lady there that's working remotely. Like she's there, and like he starts to be sent home, and they can't stop it. Like they all show up. Like it was just a scene that does nothing. And there's a stupid scene where during the chase, Peter catches up with him and is like, "Oh, hold my baby, it will relax you." And it's like, ugh. And then okay, here's the final assassination of Peter Parker. This is the end for him. Not only does he bring the baby into a workspace, which is really rude, he self-aware too. He's knows the character is aware that he's being assassinated as he's being assassinated. He's like, "Oh, well, this is bad parenting. This is bad parenting." Pulls the mask over his baby, or not pulls it, puts the baby in his pouch or whatever, and then jumps into action and starts swinging, and like it's dangerous. Like things start exploding, like stuff happen. It's like the freaking most dangerous thing ever. And he's like joking, like, "Oh my gosh, baby's first chase. Let's take a picture." And it's like, this is so dangerous to bring a baby into this. And let's go back to the argument that makes this okay. It's like, but the baby has spider powers, and the baby seems to like it. Oh, I already broke that point by saying by the frickin' Kingpin can smash Peter to death, so he can do the same thing to a baby. And another thing is a baby having spider powers out of the womb is even more dangerous. Like it's insanely dangerous because these writers don't have children, never been close to a child, because if they did, they would know that uh, toddlers are self-destructing. They will put anything in their mouth, any sharp thing, the choking hazard, they'll put anything in their mouth. They'll crawl towards anything. They will touch everything. They like that's a toddler. So imagine your toddler can crawl on the wall. Do you know how often my toddler pointed at our ceiling fan saying up, 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 up? All the time. He wants up. He wants close to that ceiling fan. If he could crawl on the walls and on the ceiling, he would walk right into the ceiling fan. Like, okay, maybe if you have spider person powers, he wouldn't die, but he would crawl like into any dangerous thing. He would crawl into the oven. He would do anything. Like spider, like a baby with spider powers is that's so dangerous. That's so dangerous. So like a baby with spider powers needs more supervision and care than even a normal baby would. So, and then to bring that baby into a battle is even dumber. So that was another assassination of Peter, probably the worst one ever. Oh, and the thing that makes this even worse is his character wouldn't do this. His character's written to not do this. Why? Because in Into the Spider-Verse, a way superior film, uh Peter um Peter said Peter does not agree to train Miles. Why? Because he's a 14-year-old. He's like, "No, I'm not training a kid. No, I'm not training you. No, I'm not training you." And then Miles is like, "Yeah, people are gonna die. I need help." And he's like, okay, I should probably teach him how to not get hurt. So he agrees to teach him stuff, and when he teaches him stuff, it's basic stuff. It's just like, here's how you keep your suit clean. Like this is, you got to stretch and stuff, and all this stuff, and then when they go to the lab, he's like, "All right." He's like, and Miles says, "What's my job?" He's like, "You're a lookout. Stay here. You're not coming in here. Too dangerous." And Miles disobeys him and does it anyway, which is great for his character. He goes in there to protect him, right? And so And every point, like Miles is like, there's like a moment where Peter thinks like, oh, maybe he can do it because he can turn invisible and he can use his zappy powers. But as soon as he learns like, oh, well, he can't do it on command, so he can't go. He can't go. And then he learns that, oh, he just lost his uncle. His uncle just died. He's grieving, and he's wanting revenge. He can't go. He can't do this. He can't. I'm not allowing it. But Miles has agency and does it anyway. And so, and then even to the very end, they're sending all the spider people home. They got it working. They're sending all the spider people home, and Kingpin comes up, shows up, and Peter even then is like, "I'm staying to fight this guy to protect you," and like Miles has to trip him and throw him into the portal to stop him from protecting him and to save his own life. Like he was willing to die to protect Miles from danger. Every single step of the way, Peter is a good father character. That's the point. And then this episode is like he's a terrible father. He's a liar. Like I will get into that later. So so yeah, I'm gonna rush past this. He goes to the Wayback Machine. He goes home. Gwen gets sent home. Miguel goes after Miles. Peter goes home, and Gwen learns that you don't have to um, um, you don't have to die if your job title is not captain. So captain must die, so quit your job, because her dad's like, I'm not captain anymore. It's like, oh, and it's kind of like oh, now I know how to save Miles's dad. And she's like, oh, I got an epiphany, I gotta go. And then it's like, how about show some relief that your own dad's not gonna die, you idiot? How about like cry and hug? No, nothing. Screw this guy. Anyway, so so Peter, uh, yeah, Peter goes back to Peter's dimension and meets up with his wife, and then immediately, just like another knife into his character. Uh, the first thing MJ says to him is, "Did you bring my daughter into a fight again?" He's done this before. He's done this before. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Could you not kill this character uh further? Could you not ruin this character further? Like, and his response to that is a straight up lie to his wife about what he's doing with his daughter. Like it's no, I didn't do that. I didn't do that. He did. He did. He brought the daughter into a chase that ended up becoming a fight. Like he brought it. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So some really cool stuff happens. Turns out, I'm really rushing through it now. Turns out, Miles wasn't sent to it. Oh, did I leave the door open? Oh, okay. Are you just starting work? Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm actually gonna have to do a part two of this, because my work time's over for this morning. So, but I have some free time a little bit later, so I'm going to go live. Just a note to self, ending with, well, I was about to explain the plot point of Miles Morales's like family and power revelation. Yeah. All right. All right. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back a little bit later today.